Hi, my name is Randhawa. I'm CEO and Chairman of Strathmore Uranium. We're based in Wyoming, which is the best jurisdiction possible. We have three projects um, that have got uranium on them already, and we're excited to move them forward.
Dev Randhawa is back. How are you, sir? Are you well?
Absolutely. I mean, it couldn't be a better time to be in uranium with, the green energy and the crisis. And, unfortunately, it takes crisis for people to change behavior sometimes.
Well, there we go. There we go. Look, I want to. Okay, there's a news story, but I'm trying to understand. Is this just a case of jumping on the bandwagon? We've seen lots of new entrants into the space. Are you serious about doing this, or is it just a let's just kind of ride this thing
Sure.
up?
Well, my career started with being in the US. My very first projects were in the US. And then eventually we split them into two, sold those off, and focused on Canada. Thankfully, I found a superstar named Ross McElroy who found two mines. That's where you go where the money is. But to me, if the energy crisis taught us anything, that every country has to have its own energy. Don't be Germany, right? Don't be like them that, counting on somebody they shouldn't have, and now they're screwed. The other thing is that green energy folks are agreeing for the last year, look, if we're going to have any chance of meeting any of our goals, Kyoto Protocol or Paris Accord, any of them, you have to have nuclear power as part of that mix. Because unfortunately, we can't tell the wind to blow all the time and the sun to shine all the time. And furthermore, you can't store that energy. So we need nuclear power to be a part of that overall answer. We've never had that before. We've never had Democratic Party saying we've got to have nuclear. And that's why I believe Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are building the very first reactor in Wyoming, not New Mexico, not anywhere else, right there. Because Wyoming loves uranium, and that's where you don't have the issues of NIMBY there.
Right. Okay. We don't, and when we've spoken to another developer in Wyoming. We understand the benefits of doing business there. But I want to understand how you're going to build this business up. Then, if you're serious about this, we're not just jumping on the bandwagon. This is the real deal. You want to do fission 3, and get things motoring. Now, you obviously you alluded to a couple of names there. Just tell us about the people that you're working with.
Well, that's the key. I wouldn't have done this if I had a conversation last year. You have to remember, I'm one of the first 5 original uranium players in the industry back in '96. I would argue I am the bandwagon, along with Lucas, our late Lucas friend, and Brian Dalton, Neil Froman. For us, John said to me, I said, John, if you have got ideas of properties that people have dropped or didn't understand geologically, based on the fact you've produced so much uranium, other projects that you would think of? And he said, yeah, actually, I do. I've been thinking about this. And I said, here's your choices. You can do what others have done, taken old projects that I call pigs, never been in production before, but somehow we put some lipstick on them and try to flog them as an option on the price of uranium. That's what I've seen a lot of. Or we can find projects that have got uranium on them. We can buy super cheap. And that was our strategy, and it's worked. We have picked up 3 projects, 2 ISL, 1 breccia pipe. We're very excited. We staked them. So it was all around the fact that John has been in this industry 50 years. Who else can say that? He's also produced 25% of the uranium in many of these basins himself. He doesn't explore, he actually produced it. So it's all based around his mind, execution by Terrence, and my job was to raise a bit of money. And for that, I put up $500,000 at 30 cents. So, I put where my mouth was.
Okay, so John DeJoya, you've also got obviously Ross McElroy in there as well.
Absolutely,
with
yeah.
Fission 3. So what's his role here?
He's a director, and he knows John well. And like Ross, Ross is a quiet person, but he's very, very competent. He understands how to use the different tools of exploration to vector in. So, we're learning through techniques used in the Athabasca for exploration. We're using it, and obviously Ross has won every award possible for a geologist. So it's great to have him on the team.
Okay, fine. Well, let's talk about the projects. The Breccia project, Night Owl. Tell us about that, and how'd you pick it up?
Well, It's hilarious. John came to see me and he said, "I think there's a project," and he starts going through numbers. And he goes, "Found it." So it was a project that um, uh, a group didn't even bother drilling. They flew over it with a scintillometer and detected this super high grade. They just by American standard, which is quarter of a percent to 1%, and they went, "What the heck?" So they just started taking a backhoe, put it in a truck, and sent it off to the Atomic Energy Commission. Prices collapsed. So there's this breccia pipe. So we've gone in and tested scintillometer and put the results out. They're pretty high. We're excited about the next set of results coming out because there was a big boulder that was super high grade. So we'll find out. We're getting results coming out soon. But we also looked around. We think there's more on this whole rim. So it's a former producer, a couple of small one, but still, when you can produce, there's might be, and they haven't used any modern exploration. The other two are ISL projects. Beaver Rim is large next to Cameco. The data sits with Cameco. We're trying to get that. On Agate, we have the data because Kerr-McGee was the Cameco of its time. And they have over 500 drill holes in this area. We're right next to Emir's UEC. Um, and we're in Wyoming, which they don't have a problem with uranium mining there. So these are two good ISL projects. We know there's uranium on them. Same thing with this breccia. Um, yeah, it's a I can't use the name, but an analyst looked at it and says, "Wow, what a high grade, low cost project here, the Night Owl." So we're very pumped. The question is, how many pounds do you have? And that's our next step is to evaluate. We're doing some flying in the area using drones to figure out what the areas, how many pounds we have. We got to have a drilling program. So we've got them. Next step is figure out how much we have. But with ISL, you can be in production in 5 years if you do things right. And again, we have John DeJoya, who not just found uranium, but produced it. Sorry.
So we're still on Night Owl. So that's a breccia, and that would also be an ISL. Is that what you just said?
No, you do probably have to heap leach that.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought
It's above the water table. The other two are below the water table.
got it. Okay. So we'll come on to the ISL in a second. But so is this all relatively shallow? I mean, you've got a bit of
Oh, it's right
historic
on
data.
surface.
Right. Okay.
We got pictures of I'm standing there with a scintillometer right on surface and go over the whole area and ding, 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 all that. I mean, I remember the same feeling when I was up in Athabasca. We make discoveries. You run the scintillometer, everybody gets all excited. And so we walked the property. I couldn't believe it. Right on surface.
Right. Okay. Okay. So, look, today's just about saying, like, we're here. Have a look. I will get into into the weeds with you if you come back on. Let's talk about the two ISL projects. You've got Beaver Rim and Agate.
Agate. It's spelled the gate, but it's Agate. Well, Beaver Rim sits next to Cameco, very large area. And we've still got to get the data. In the US, you don't get the data. In Canada, if you get a property, you stake it, you get it from the government. Now, thankfully, so it's a larger project. They were mining all through here. There's a mine permitted, and for some reason, they didn't keep. We know they drilled, but they kept the data. We know there's uranium, so hopefully we can get some of that data. We'll have to drill it ourselves. But drilling is super cheap in the U.S. compared to Canada. Canada, it's 100, 150,000, 200,000 for a hole. You can do one for $5,000. It's night and day. So that's Beaver Rim. Agate is next to UEC project, and we have over 500 drill holes left to us by Kerr-McGee. They donated it. Kerr-McGee was the Cameco on steroids of its time. Massive company. And anyways, they're out of it. They got bought out and parts sold. So we know there's uranium in all three projects, two ISL and high grade heap leach with Night Owl.
Right. Okay. So there's lots of strategies that you can employ, and I'm intrigued by yours. Okay, you got three assets at the moment. One has been a producer, which is rarefied air. The ISL both projects a little bit earlier in the mix, but we've seen companies building up large portfolios and think, well, that's a good strategy for me because they've got optionality of what they do with it. You've got others saying, well, let's kind of get on and get a resource done on something. So what's the plan here? How do you grow this company?
Well, I think with Agate, we want to get more assays back. We're testing the area. We want to grab more land and then figure out how we move it forward, which we've got an idea already. But Like it's produced already. The question is, how much is left? How big can it be? On the other two, it's about gathering information. How do we grow it? And then you start moving towards permitting. It's you got to evaluate and then start permitting because you don't want to start permitting until you've got some numbers. But again, it's a short time frame in Wyoming, 5 years, and etc. There are a lot of big players, and then that's the key thing. I don't want to get any more properties unless they're worthwhile. To me, land grabs are silly. I know that oh, they got so much land. Who cares? Like that's ridiculous. It's quality of projects, not quantity. And having management who know how to move it forward. With John and Terrence, we have a clue how to move this forward. With Ross McElroy, we have some great exploration ideas. So ideas to move towards permitting. And again, you got 3 projects, market cap of 6-7 million. I mean, if investors want to be in something with tremendous upside, okay, this is a great option for them.
Okay, so quality, not quantity.
Yeah.
But if you were to look around, is there much else around? Because the US has gone from being a massive producer to being zero. I mean, obviously, there's a factor there is the uranium price,
I
but
think
there's also more to it.
To some degree, the US made the same mistake as Germany, trusting Russia, right? And they got along well for a while, but now they don't. So now what are you going to do? So, yeah, one time America produced 40 million pounds, needed 4 when they first started out, just very new. Now, 50 million pounds produce 0, basically. So they have to produce their own uranium or exclusive rights to whatever Cameco does. Because, Cameco is number 2 producer in the world. It's all Canadian, but they've also got assets in the US. I won't be surprised if something happens with US assets so they can move those forward. If the energy crisis taught us anything, is one, you gotta have your own energy. You can't be, letting Russia of all people, like, say what you want about Trump. He said in 2018, he warned Merkel, don't count on Russia. And that's what America has made the same mistake. That half of the uranium in the States comes from Russia. It means every 10th light bulb in the States comes from uranium from Russia. You kidding me? That will not continue. Because you can't trust them, number one, and number two, why don't you have your own?
Well, I think there's bigger problems, short-term problems, such as accessing enriched uranium, which
40%. Russia controls 40% of it.
Yeah, but we haven't sanctioned that bit yet.
No,
so that's the good
scared.
news. But it's coming. Okay, so for you, okay, you're back in the game. You picked up some nice assets, and it's a question of what you do with it next. But obviously, you're sitting at 7 million market cap today. You've put $500,000 of your own money in on this, but you're going to need capital to do what you need to do. So clearly, the thesis works, but the markets suck at the moment. So how do you manage that?
Well, what's funny? You say that our stock was 28 cents. We announced a 33-cent financing, went from 600 to 1.4 million. People are still putting money in because we put a nice warrant with it at 40. But so we are getting money. The nice thing is we've only got one person being paid full time. That's it. And that's Terrence. The rest of us work for stock, which is fine for now. So we're going to raise $1.5 million. Once we move it along, it makes no sense to have a market cap of 7 million and raise 5 million. That makes 0 sense. So we raised $1.5 million. That's reasonable. Then once the market cap is 10 or 20 million, sure, you raise 5 million. But you don't, you got to take baby steps. I want to keep this market cap, I want to keep the float small, the market small, so that when the market turns, when we get the big markets turning around and money starts to pour into spot, and that money raises the spot price of uranium, boom, the race is on, and there'll be no float against us, and that's what we need.
Okay, right at the beginning, you talked about new beginnings, right? Or phrase similar to that, okay? What have you learned from your experience in the past with Fission 3 in terms of the way that you structure these things, the way that you manage the corporate structure and finance? Because, it was a kind of slight Wild West, I think,
Yeah.
back then. So
I think the thing when people forget about Fission 3 is it goes back 5 generations. Like, it was Strathmore, Fission Energy, Fission Uranium. So you've always got these, and that's why there's so many shares out. But what I'm learning is that finally, that we have to have a smaller float in the stock when you're first starting out. And that's what happened because, when everything crashed, our stock went from 30 cents to 19. Whereas, some stocks went from 30 down to 8 because there's so much. It's great having lots of retail. It's bad having a lot of retail because they panic. People they're using online trading. They're not using brokers anymore to bring their fear level down or their greed level down. So having a smaller float and a great story with great people, I think it's only a question of time before the U.S. changes the rules, and so that there's a chance for more uranium production internally. I think it's just a question of time.
okay. Do you think? Yeah, no. Like I know you're Canadian, and this is a TSX-V project, but and it'd be too expensive to go on a US board. But is there OTC? I mean, how do you access the kind of wild US investor?
That's a great question, and we do have our listing down here, and that will continue. But really, you can only do what you've got, and so you got to get a bigger market cap. And when you get big enough market cap, you can list and etc. No, we're just using right now. We just, like I said, got going about a month ago because we had a .H to get us fully listed, which we are now. And the next step is to slowly work with quality people like you, hopefully with guys like Nick Hodge, people that have very direct, quality listeners, and build that story that way. We don't have a lot of money for marketing, so I know some guys that spend 1.5, 2 million a month on marketing. We probably spend 10 grand.
Well, I'd love it if you wanted to pay me 1.5 million a month. I'd take it,
Yeah.
but I don't think it'd be good for your shareholders.
If I had 50 million, sure.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I understand that. So you've got so are you on OTCQB at the moment? Is that what
Right.
are you
Yeah.
saying?
I have to clarify that. I haven't checked, but
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we're in good standing there.
Okay, fine. Well, look, Dev, it's just great. Welcome back. Welcome back to the uranium game. It's good to see you. Good to hear your plans. Good to hear about the assets and the team, etc. So why don't we stay in touch? Maybe we hook up again and kind of get a little bit more technical and see if Terence wants to come on and maybe chat to us about what's
John. We can get John on. Yeah.
And
The
John,
bottom
even
line
better.
is, it's a super small market cap of 7 million, 3 quality projects, and above all, a superstar management team with John, Ross, and myself. We've done this before, and we're just starting out with a very small market cap. Which market cap's out there under 50 million that has got a former producer? Well, I can't hardly think of any, but where you have a former producer in Night Owl, we're going to do some homework and find out where it's going to go, but at least it's produced before, which means the grades are there.
Well, let's see what the future holds.
Thanks for your time.
We'll see you soon. Okay.
You got it.